Welcome back, guys, to Miles Edgeworth Ace Attorney Investigations, where last episode we attempted to remove Larry from suspicion, but the trouble that the butt springs could not be underestimated. As to avoid perceived embarrassment, he seemed quite happy to hinder us every step of the way. However, when it came to the topic of the weapon used to dispatch Master Mass 2, it came the point where we could make a breakthrough on the case as a whole. Finding out the statue sitting in the center of the room wasn't just the murder weapon, but also the statue that came from Babahl, as we seem to be moving over past the Open A stage. I've left the Damask 2 investigation to Francisca and returned to Babahl. I suppose my first order of business should be to look into Babahl's statue. Mr. Edgeworth! There we get our crew back again, eh? So, Kay, what's the situation? Oh, it's great. Investigating is so much fun. In other words, they've made absolutely no progress.
We weren't goofing off, honest, sir. We've been investigating our hearts out.
Very well then, would you care to give me an update on your investigation?
We've had a really fun time, sir.
I knew it. Zero progress. In any case, Detective Gumshoe...
Yes, sir?
You have permission to enter the Allebahstian embassy, is that correct?
Yep. As a local detective, I'm helping out with investigations on both sides, sir.
Good. In that case, I can leave these pieces of evidence with you. Okay. That kind of stuff. Clothes and whatnot. Oh, that. They belong to the lady under the Pink Princess's mask.
To the Pink Princess? What kind of lady was playing her, sir?
The kind that was also playing the role of the Pink Badger yesterday.
Understood, sir. If I'm to run into her, I'll give them back to her. And if I don't, then I guess I'll unload them somewhere.
Yeah, you just don't want to after all. Yeah, I understand that. He doesn't seem all that infused to go find her, but I can't blame him. Evidence that has lost their value giving to Detective Gumshoe, he says. Now then, I don't believe I'll be needing this anymore either. What? Are you really going to throw that autograph away? Yes, because that Steel Samurai was a fake. Steel Samurai's autograph scrunched up into a ball and disposed of. So what do you reckon, Miles? That Steel Samurai's an actual person that looks like that? Wait, what? What do you mean by fake? Now then, I believe it's time for a little housekeeping. Necessary evidence has been removed. Remaining evidence has been rearranged. Oh. How many pages have we got now? We're back down to 2. The passion flowers are very important, though. We haven't presented them for anything yet, actually. Right, well, do I examine in here, or am I just going to go up? Hello! A ladder. Actually, that's a step ladder. They're the exact same thing. No, wait, from the structure up, they're totally different. But of course, from a thief's perspective, the best kind of ladder is the rope ladder. The step ladder is much too heavy to carry around, after all. And from a prosecutor's perspective, any type of ladder is guilty of being dangerous during an earthquake. Bags full of cement powder. Cement? Yes, cement powder are stacked up here. I suppose they're for the renovation. See, he says it's cement. Yeah, because I don't smell a drop of gold here or any other treasure for that matter. Okay, the only scent you should detect in a place like this is the smell of sweat.
Hey, Mr. Edgeworth, that was a pretty good play on words there.
Gummy, don't randomly jump into one of our dialogues like that. Were you eavesdropping on us, Detective Gumshoe?
No, it's not like that, sir.
It is like that. Right, so what should we do? Let's speak to you, Gummy.
Mr. Edgeworth!
You look like you're enjoying yourself, Detective.
Well, I don't have much else that I enjoy as much as a good investigation, sir.
It's not like he can afford to go out. So, what did you find out? He can't even afford computer games. What a life.
Well.
I take it he's found nothing of any particular use, as usual. Good job. Give me the investigation update.
Hey, Mr. Edgeworth, I got something really interesting from Ambassador Palermo.
Oh, and what is this something interesting?
This, sir.
Wow, that's so pretty. I'm so jealous. That's a real treasure there. Why does the flame burn green, Detective?
So apparently, if you burn the special wit crystal oil that they only make in Babahl, it burns the screen colour, sir.
Interesting. So it's a special property of the oil. I suppose this is a ploy to force people to visit Babahl should they all run out. Hey Gummy, what about these silhouettes?
They stuck some cutouts on the outside of the lantern so it project the images.
Oh, silhouettes, huh? They are rather pretty, aren't they? Wait, what am I doing? I was supposed to be asking for an update on the investigation.
Hey, what's wrong, sir?
There's something I want you to investigate for me. Do you think you can do that much?
You got it, sir.
Hey, that's not fair. Why is Gummy getting to do all the fun stuff?
Well, that's because I'm Mr. Edgeworth's partner.
I can't believe you took advantage of the confusion and stole my role as assistant. I expect the two of you to get along and work together like professionals on this. Professional thief? Professional what? Okay. Silhouette lantern was added, so that's very important. Oh yes, silhouettes that dance with fire. Anything else you can do for me? Thanks for that.
I guess I could talk to Kay about what's gone on too.
Let's talk to the ambassador. So you're back now, are you, Mr. Edgeworth? You must be tired. Here, with these, you can eat whatever you'd like. And these are? Discount tickets for our cafeteria. They open tomorrow at 10 in the morning. I appreciate the concern. However, these coupons do nothing for me right now. Telling me about the open-air stage. This open-air stage, what function does it serve exactly? Well, normally we use it for a variety of events. It's all to attract that extra bit of attention to Babahl. I heard that tonight over in the Allebahstian Rose Garden, Ambassador Babahl was to give a speech. And you know what? Manny told me that I really should give a speech too. Mr. Koshin told you that? Yes, he did. Which is why I thought I should give a speech of my own. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to. Because of the fire the Yatagarasu started. Exactly. Exactly! The posh speaks to the posh. Prefect statue. Ambassador Plano, I'd like to ask you a little more about the Prefect statues. Oh, I see! Well, let me ask you this. Did you know that Allebahst and Babahl used to be one country called Cordopia? Yes, I know that much about your history. Well, the Prefect statue belonged to the founders of Cordopia. At least that's how the story goes. It was bequeathed unto the king of Cordopia as a symbol of the country's wealth. So it was meant as a symbol of sovereignty and the right to rule, I take it. Yes, that's right! Which is why both countries are so adamant about their claim. We hold the little statue, therefore we hold the right to rule, is the reasoning. It's pretty petty when you think about it, though, I suppose. But if Allebahst and Babahl were to re-establish relations, shouldn't that put an end to the squabbling over the statue? I have no reason to believe so. The Prefect statue is even more important now as a key to diplomacy. I wonder if Ambassador Plano knows about what has happened to the very important key to diplomacy. Perhaps I should try showing him this key and see what he has to say about it.
Ooh, okay.
Well, we can ask about this first. Ambassador Plano, there's just one thing I'd like to ask you about. Yes, oh, and don't worry, you can ask me more than just one thing. How about 2 or 3? In exchange, I expect you'll be coming to Babahl, yes? Thank you, but just the one thing is all I require. Manny Koshin, I'd like to ask you about this man who was your secretary. Sure, I'll tell you what I know. Thank you for your cooperation, Ambassador. He was, well, if I had to put it in one word, he was an able man. If there was ever anything I needed as an ambassador, he was able to get it for me. To think that a man like that had a hand in a smuggling ring right under my nose, going completely unnoticed. Actually, I suppose because he was an able man, I was unable to detect his dirty dealings. Sounds like Mr. Koshin had a very sharp mind. Recently, Manny had been really busy. Since I became the Babahlese representative at the Country Unification Council, he's been working tirelessly to cover my work for me. I'm sorry, but what is this Country Unification Council? Oh, well, you see, had tonight's events proceeded without a hitch, our 2 countries were to reunify and become one again. But I guess with how things turned out, that dream won't be realized anytime soon. I suppose not. Well, that's a bombshell to drop, and I'm amazed that doesn't end up as some kind of evidence. Right then, I guess it's not doing this one, I'm doing this one. Yeah, originally from Babahl Secretariat's office. Not the right one. Master Plano, if you could please take a look at this for me. The Prima Duck statue sitting in Allebahst right now actually belongs to Babahl. So it would appear. I received a call from Miss Von Karma about this earlier. And you will understand why I wish to inspect Babahl's Prima Duck statue immediately. Because the statue currently in your country's possession. As well, I've already inspected it myself. And it is definitely Allebahst's statue. I know because it's the real statue. Wait, then you're saying that Babahl's was a replica? I'm embarrassed to say it's true, even though I knew that someday it would be exposed. I received my orders from the leaders of Babahl, and I was to negotiate with Ambassador Allebahst at this event. I was to negotiate with him and fix the results of the evaluation tonight. To say that we could not determine which statue was the real one.
Hold it!
Why are you telling me this? Well, because you already figured it out. Our statue is just a hollow gold shell. Even if Babahl were to lose face, the reunification of the country is what's important. I'm right in thinking that, aren't I? I'm not making a mistake, right? If you don't know yourself, then I won't pretend to know either. I never thought that by being betrayed by my own secretary, the real symbol of wealth would be given to me. Isn't this simply ironic? That's ironic, is it? Hey, where are you going? Are you heading back to Allebahst? Yes, but before I do, I suppose I should give you a summary of what's happened. Oh, I see. So, there's been a murder in both countries using an object from the other country. That's the gist of it. Babahl is just as strict as Allebahst in their inspection of the people and things that enter their country. Meaning that somehow both murder weapons were smuggled into the two countries. That's the only logical conclusion that can be drawn. Perhaps the key to the weapon smuggling is the person who traversed both countries. You mean the fake Yatagarasu? In one way or another, the Yatagarasu is connected. Of this, I'm sure. Now then, where was the Yatagarasu first spotted? I believe it was the Rose Garden on the Allebahstian side of the embassy. The garden is just on the other side of this boundary. It's where Ambassador Alba was to give a speech tonight. At least that's where I heard the Yatagarasu had appeared. In that case, I believe it's vital that I investigate the Rose Garden post-haste. Wait, before you go, take a look at this, Mr. Edgeworth. What is it? My guess is that it's a guitar pick. I picked it up just now over there. Do you think it'll be of any use? There is a little water on it, but how did the water get on it? It doesn't look like there's anything it could get wet from around here. I was thinking, they have concert at this open-air stage from time to time, right? Alright, I'll find its owner later. After all, there's one more person around that's within a costume, right? Oh yeah, there's one more thing. Maybe I should have talked to you. Mr. Edgeworth, would you be willing to hold on to this? What is this? It's Miss Yu's perfume. It's the bottle that woman left behind and that I found 7 years ago. I thought that one day it'd be of some use in tracking her down. So I kept it safe all this time. Thank you. I'd be honoured to hold on to it for you. Oh wow, we seem to need something like, I don't know, sniffer dog? Something like that on scene, maybe? None of them around, are there? Right then! Well, now I got the opportunity to speak to you. Yes? Yeah, you give me your investigation update. Thanks for giving me all that stuff, though. How's the investigation going in the Babahlese Secretariat's office, Kay? Well, even though we found a few treasures, they've all been pretty much burnt to a crisp. Treasure is a terrible thing to waste. Anyway, is there anything else I should know about? Oh, that's right. You know what I found in that office? A wooden bear carving. It's so cute. Can I have it? Can I? No, of course you can't. By the sound of things, it appears that there has been no progress in the investigation. Good job. Everyone was brilliant. Everyone can do the thing. So, supposedly the game wants me to leave. Or at least says I'm heading back. So, off we go. A lot less people in the lobby, isn't there? I think I'll be returning to the investigation at Allebahst now, but... I know. I'll go back to Babahl and do some more investigating there. But we didn't keep her around very long. Bye, Kay. Hi, Kay. Bye, Kay. The Rose Garden. Who are you? Is it Franziska? Considering that they're calling me Miles Edgeworth? I see you're back, Miles Edgeworth. How are things in Babahl? Although I can't really say I expect much from Scruffy and that girl. The investigation into Manny Koshin's death hasn't really progressed any. However, the investigation into the Yatagarasu has. Ah yes, the Yatagarasu. Even now I find it hard to believe. A person who can freely traverse between the two countries at will. Preposterous. Well, that's what I came here to investigate. I heard that this is where witnesses claim to have seen the Yatagarasu. That's correct. Ambassador Albert was to give a speech tonight here in Allebahst. And that's when the Yatagarasu appeared. The shadow of the mysterious thief appeared, and just as suddenly it vanished. After that, there was the fire at the Babahl's embassy that the Yatagarasu started. I vow that not a single feather from the Yatagarasu shall escape my diligence. Well, we begin an investigation in here by the look of things. With my newest buddy! Yes? How's the ore investigation going? Tonight in this very rose garden, the Alabastian ambassador, Quercus Alba? Yeah, sure. Was to give a commemorative speech. A very key commemorative speech at that. And including Agent Lang, the security detail was very tight. But as if to mock our efforts, the Yatagarasu appears. Then just like that, the thief vanishes and starts a fire at the Babahl's embassy. Interesting. And are you sure it was the Yatagarasu who appeared here? Of course. But to have slipped by such tight security and then disappear into thin air. We will need to conduct a very thorough investigation of this area. Yes, my thoughts exactly. In order to find out the truth behind what happened here, I should start by gathering as much information as I can. Thank you for the not real help. What do I check out first? There are roses scattered on the surface of the water, creating a pleasant fragrance. It's not just for aesthetics. This pool's water is also used in putting out fires. Is it? Specifically? I see. Oh. The pool stops filling itself automatically. The fountain spouts are set to stay open until the pool's water reaches a certain level. If this water is used to put out fires, I suppose it must be refilled to its normal level. Which suggests that this pool was recently used somehow in this embassy. I guess I'll take some notes about it just in case. That's so weird!
We had this pool installed, deliberately in case of fire.
Where's the buckets? Are you saying it's connected to like a sprinkler system or something? That's the weirdest thing!
We installed a pool to store the water.
Okay then. How dare you surprise me like that?
I'm sorry.
Oh hey Edgy, thanks for what you did back there. Your gratitude alone is enough. More importantly, Larry, this pool is not for your personal enjoyment.
I know that. Do you really think that I'm the type to just jump into a pool and swim around for fun?
Just say yes. Alright then, did you by chance fall into the pool? Nice guess, but no dice. So you know my son, right, Edgy? Your son? I guess I kind of lost sight of him when I shook hands with the ambassador. And I'm pretty sure he was around here when I last saw him! You imbecile, how can you be so flippant at a time like this? What are you going to do if your son fell into the pool? And how old is this child of yours anyway? How old is he again?
Hold it!
Larry, this is the first I've heard of a son. Who exactly is the mother? The mother? Oh, that chick, the pink princess. The pink princess.
Hold it!
Miss Von Karma. I was a bit confused by this man's words for a bit there. However, I believe what he's looking for is the dole of the Iron Infant.
Yeah, because I'm the still samurai through and through, heart and soul.
And the Iron Infant is my cute little son. You have given a whole new meaning to the phrase, an astounding fool. Larry, we have not seen hide nor hair of the Iron Infant. Rest assured that if we should find him, we'll let you know. Now get out of there. Sounds good. In that case, I'll go search over there.
Hey, wait!
Well, it's not as if he'll get very far swimming around in that pool. And though he's unrelated to the murders, he sure knows how to cause a lot of trouble. Yes. Will you examine it again? Will you pop out? It would appear that this pool so dysfunctional tonight is an emergency water reservoir. The pool even refills itself to the preset water level. And when the planets align, a steel samurai appears from its depths. That is true. A statue of a woman. I wonder if the lady is pouring water. It says that it's a statue of the queen who spoke of love to King Primidux. Well, Miles Edgeworth, it seems that you are lousy at reading a woman's heart. I opened my mouth about a statue, and she somehow made the leap to that. Conjecture disallowed. There's an overturned spotlight here. When the Yatagarasu appeared, the audience that was waiting for the speech to start panicked. I suppose that's when someone must have knocked it over. I'm having a tough time visualizing the mass confusion that took place here. I thought to use my whip to capture the Yatagarasu. However, there were people in my way and I was unable to land even a single lash. I suppose this means that some other poor saps were hit instead. And that's probably what caused more of the chaos than anything. Are you Primidux then? The statue bears a resemblance to the Primidux statue. The plaque says, King Primidux and the battlefield. In order to save the queen, King Primidux put his life on the line and went to war. So Primidux was actually a person of royal blood. I thought he was simply someone imitating a character from an ancient legend. Well, what surprises me is that a real person who looked like the still samurai existed. I suppose there's that too. There's an overturned spotlight here. Oh, same again. What about that spotlight, which doesn't seem to be so overturned? But I'm guessing gives the same dialogue as well. Okay, they all give the same dialogue. Let's check out this chair. I suppose Ambassador Allebahst sat in this chair. Ambassador Allebahst is very elderly. The chair was prepared for him should he have gotten tired during his speech. In that case, why didn't he plan to make a speech sitting down in the first place? The ambassador is also quite prideful, that's why. He sounds like my old principal from grade school who'd speak at assemblies. So this is where Ambassador Allebahst was to give his speech. The stage was set up nicely, however, where was the audience supposed to sit? Perhaps they were supposed to sit around the edge of the pool? That's such poor planning. There was no place other than a spot or two by the pool. They really should have made seating arrangements like how the gallery is set up in court. Indeed, you could set such consideration for the viewers was taken with those. So in the end, the speaker and his audience were to stand the whole time, huh? Yes, although I suspect the audience would have liked to sit down after a while. I guess all I've got is to speak to you guys. How was the investigation proceeding on your end? Langzi says, that's top secret. If you're going to attempt to imitate your superior, at least do it well. I don't suppose he believes in the accidental leakage of information. No, that's a Gumshoe tenet.
Have you finished checking out all the bystanders? Yes, sir! And we found
14 counts of pickpocketing, 16 counts of illegal parking, and one person ran a light, sir!
Don't tell me you didn't find out anything related to the case. Sir, not a single thing, sir! Well, for now, let's just get those other lawbreakers down to the precinct.
Agent Lang.
Oliver and Mr. Prosecutor.
I would just like to thank you for your assistance earlier.
Make no mistake, it's not like I was trying to help you with what I did.
After I left, did you receive word from Ambassador Allebahst?
We'll wrap up our bodyguard assignment at the end of today. Oddly enough, we received word from HQ to return home on an urgent matter. It's never going to be so easily called away from this case after I've come this far. I swear that I'll find the truth and drag it out screaming into the light. You're with me on that, right, Mr. Prosecutor?
I am. I'd like you to actually believe it. Are you starting to believe? Yatagarasu's appearance. You were working as Ambassador Allebahst's bodyguard at the time. So naturally you witnessed when the Yatagarasu appeared, correct?
Yeah, I saw the thief alright, with my own two eyes. The Yatagarasu was always there lurking in the shadows. Or when the spotlights were turned on for Ambassador Allebahst's speech, a shadow appeared. That's when cries of, "It's the Yatagarasu!" rang out. The next second, the spotlight went out. And by the time we got the area lit again, the deaf thief had vanished.
Wow, you're so dumb.
When we investigated afterwards, we found the reason the lights went out was because someone had unplugged the extension plug for all the outdoor electronics. Whether it was someone doing it on purpose, or simply a guest who had tripped over it, we don't know. But one thing is for certain. The Yatagarasu was here!
So you're saying that basically all you saw was the thief's silhouette?
Yes.
Objection!
If all you saw was a shadow, then it's entirely possible that the shadow belonged to someone else.
Ha! Good thinking, sis. Just might be right. If it weren't for the fact that there was no one else with that same shape, not among the staff or the audience members. My men have already done a thorough check of everyone, so I know I'm right.
Statues! Someone else's shadow? That sounds like a plausible hypothesis. So how do we prove this now? Because we know that's where we're going right now. The suddenly appearing and disappearing shadow of the Yatagarasu. I believe I figured out its true origin. I expected no less from my subordinate. Now let's hear what you know on the subject. What really cast the shadow of the Yatagarasu? Oh no, I don't get health refills! Ah! So it's this, and that over there. So how am I supposed to do everything?
Take that!
The suddenly appearing and disappearing shadow of the Yatagarasu. It is not possible that it was created by this statue.
Objection!
Are you playing me for a fool, Miles Edgeworth? This statue bears absolutely no resemblance to the shadow of the Yatagarasu. You are correct. However, this statue is but one part of the whole picture. What do you mean by only one part? What is the other part of the real form of the Yatagarasu shadow? It was very obvious it would be two together because everything's overturned.
Take that!
It's another statue. The Yatagarasu's shadow was made from the shadows of these two statues. Made? What do you mean by that? Alright, now the spotlights are all over the place. This is because they were moved when the guests were in a panicked state. However, if we were to restore the lights to where they were when the thief appeared, you believe that the two shadows will create the Yatagarasu's shadow. Precisely. Now then, what as I reveal the true form of the Yatagarasu? Firstly, if we set up a spotlight to cast a shadow of King Primidux in the battlefield, the shadow of the king statue would appear on the backdrop of the stage. Likewise, we set a light up on the queen who spoke of love to King Primidux. Her silhouette would also appear on the backdrop to the stage. Aha! So we were to combine the two shadows. Not quite right. So, it looks nothing like the Yatagarasu shadow. Miles Edgeworth, how do you explain this grotesque shape? Calm down, Francisca. The way the light needs to be shone on the Queen's statue is wrong. What do you mean by that? I believe that the whole of the King's shadow needs to be used for this to work. However, in the case of the Queen, I don't believe her whole shadow is needed. Rather, the person who created the shadow only used one part of her shadow. Only one part? Yes, and that one part alone is enough to fill in the rest of the Yatagarasu shadow. It really is. Why didn't you say that in the first place? You're right. I apologize. Now, what part of the Queen's statue was used to complete the Yatagarasu shadow? I mean, it's going to be the highlight because it's going to involve this. Is what I'd imagine. So, I'd say that one.
Take that!
That hand! And basically the leaf. Think back to what is missing in our shadow. 5 long, thin areas, correct? Oh no, really, it was just the hand! It really was just the hand. I thought it was the leaf as well. I thought maybe the leaf was part of it too. I'm a fool! 5 long, thin areas, correct? Now, what does that remind you of? Ah! That's right. It can only be the shadow of the Queen's left hand. Francisca, can we please adjust the spotlight's position? So that it only shines on the Queen's left hand. Alright, let's give it a try and see what we get. It's...
Yeah, it's exactly like the shadow I saw.
The culprit must have changed the spotlight's positioning beforehand. I thought the leaf was randomly part of it because of the way it bulges out, but obviously not. And then pulled the plug after people saw what the culprit wanted them to see. In their panic, the guests must have moved the spotlights around, which we can assume was also a part of the culprit's plan. By the time the lights came back on, the Yatagarasu shadow had vanished. Which means that the shadow was a construct from the very beginning. You see, the Yatagarasu never did visit Allebahst tonight. The only country that thief visited was Babahl, although it can be assumed that the Yatagarasu had an accomplice in Allebahst. An accomplice? But who? I haven't figured that out yet, but I assume it was the person who set up the Shadow Show. I sense that the biggest clue yet to solving this case is the existence of this accomplice. Oh! Ah! My health! How's the investigation going? I assume that might be a certain bad detective that's actually quite good, but we'll find out more because the end of another episode is nigh. Weirdly enough, I actually was quite convinced that the Leafwood might be part of that as well, just on the basis of the fact that they are so ornate, so random. If they aren't a thing, I'd be actually surprised, but we haven't got it as evidence. That's why I was wondering if it seemingly was in the backdrop of that picture that they would be that too. Maybe that was meant to mislead. But I thought maybe it bulging out with a bit there and then, like, you know, the fingers with it. I mean, it still could be that. But if it was just the hand itself, that makes as much sense. But, and I shout it out to you, that is the end of another episode of Miles Edgeworth, Ace Attorney Investigations, where with another investigation complete and the movements of the supposed Yatagarasu being shown to be just a shadow, we move on and find out what's happening next. Next time. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.